Hi folks, so we have had some new members join the club, so I thought it was a good idea if I just showed anyone, including the new members or anyone else with any interest, just how to resize your images using Lightroom for our club competitions. So as you can see on screen, I've got a few images here, and if you look at the, I don't know, hopefully you can see it with the grey numbers in the top bar, these are the pixel sizes of the images, and I'm going to resize a portrait image, and I'm going to resize a landscape one. So look at this photograph here of Ed, the black and white one, and you can see the length is 4452 and the height is 6233, so it's quite a big image. In terms of our club images, for portrait images it cannot be any higher than 1050. Obviously if it's in a portrait format, the length or the width will be less than 1050 if it's in that format, but the height can't be any higher than 1050. For a landscape image, the width can't be any longer than 1400, and you have to check your images afterwards because the height cannot be any higher than 1050. So it's fairly straightforward, even though it took me a couple of years to get my head around it, but hopefully when you've seen how we do it in Lightroom, you'll get the gist. So all I'm going to do is highlight the image. I can either right click, go down to export, and then use the other export on the sub menu, or I can go to the flyout bars on the left hand side and just click highlight my image and click export. Prior to exporting, what you might want to do is fill in some of the metadata to assist the export. So I always title my images, and I've titled this one Ed the Rope Climber, and that title will stay with this image forever. What changes is the copy name. So in this particular case, I'm going to have this as my #1 image. So I've written down here 1_ Ed the Rope Climber, and that is in the copy name. The file name stays as it is, it doesn't change. So when I now press export, and we first decide where we're going to save it. Well, I'm going to choose I'm going to choose folder for later. So what this will do is it'll allow me to make the decision where I want to save it during the export process rather than before. So when it comes to file naming, I've ticked rename, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a custom name. Just get rid of this. I'm going to insert copy name, and as you can see in the example, it's giving me Ed the Rope Climber. So it's taking that information from the metadata on the right hand side, and what it does is it's automatically named my image for me, which just makes sure that spellings are done correctly, and it just saves a bit of time. We don't have to worry about video, so in terms of file settings, it's always going to be a JPEG. I always set it to 100%, but if you're short on space on your hard drive, you can set it to 90. You won't notice, in reality, you won't notice any degradation of any loss of detail. Colour space will always be sRGB, so make sure you've ticked that. You don't have to worry about limiting to file size because when we resize it, we're generally reducing it, so it won't be massive at all. So you want to tick resize to fit, and we're dealing with a portrait, so we want the long edge, and we want to change the units from inches to pixels, and we want to change the pixels to no more than 1050. So it's going to ensure that when it resizes it, it's this long edge here going up will be no more than 1050. Okay, the resolution for the club images is always 240, and these two boxes here are the two most important boxes that you need to get right. JPEG, sRGB, quality 100. For portraits, the long edge is always going to be set to 1050, and the resolution is 240. On the metadata, I show remove person info and remove location info. We don't want a watermark. I did that in my first competition. It's not, the competitions are anonymous, so we leave the watermarks out. And I always have this selected to do nothing. And it's a simpler case of exporting it. So, as I showed you right at the start, it said a location, and I want the location to be chosen during this process. So this is why this dialog box has come up. So I have a folder here called MCCC images. I'm just going to create a new folder here and call it test, and I'm going to open up or select it and select folder, and as you can see, we've got the progress bar on the top left. It's now exporting that image, and all I need to do is select my folder, and I need to go to test, and there's my image. But the ultimate check is to change the view to details, and so ensure that you've got the dimensions box ticked. So if you don't see it, right click on one of these title bars, and dimensions should be in the list. If it's not, if you click more and scroll down, it's all in alphabetical order. Dimensions, it is there. When you find it, it's alphabetical order, but when you find it, you get the options to move it higher, so you don't have to keep looking for it. And that's what I've done in my case, and it's remembered its position. So you tick it to select it, you press OK, and it appears. Sometimes when you open this window up, it doesn't always appear, and it's just a case of right clicking and ticking dimensions there. So the dimensions check. Remember, when we're reading pixels on an image, we always go across first on the width, and then we go up. So the 750 relates to the width of the image, and the 1050 relates to the height. Now, because the width is less than 1050, this image is sized correctly, and for a portrait formatted image. That's good. So I'll just reduce that now, and we'll look at we'll look at this one. We'll look at a landscape format image. So this is another big one. This is 5600 by 4480 pixels. We're going to export this, and this time I'll right click. I'll go to export and then export again. If you're using Lightroom on a Mac, the menus and sub-menu choices should be the same, it's just that you'll use different ways of getting to them. I'm presuming you'll have similar options on an iPad. So looking at the selections from the top, I will choose the folder, choose folder later. I always have that option selected. I'm going to rename. Now, as you can see, in the custom settings, and I've edited it, it shows copy name, but it's giving me a file reference. It's giving me my raw file suffix, if you like, CR2, and there's a reason for that. If I cancel out of this, it's because I haven't named it. So if I go 2 for Tango 2, oh, something like that. This is going to be a made-up name. I'll think of something else. But for the purpose of this, if I call this my image 2, so it will be 2_2 for Tango and image 2, and that's in the copy name. So the title's got a name in it, and I've used the same title in the copy name, but with the number 2 and underscore in there, and that's basically because when it goes into Dicentra, this will be the second image that I want coming up. You might want to consider which images you want in what order in terms of the composition. I like to think I hold my best ones till last, get my weakest ones out first. I just feel that by the time the judge gets towards the end, you know, they're settling in and they've got their rhythm, and so that's why I leave my better images to last, but it doesn't always work. I suppose a lot depends on the judge. So here we go, right click, export, export again. We get the box up, we're choosing the folder to later. We've renamed the file name to custom settings, and as you can see now, we have 2_2 for Tango. It's going to be saved as a JPEG, it's going to be saved in the sRG color space, and it's also going to be saved at 100% quality. Now, in terms of resizing, we want to change this format now to width and height. Now, width, as I've said to you before, is always going to be 1400. Height is going to be 1050. Now, the reason why we do width and height, if we only did 1400 and the image height went higher than 1050, it wouldn't work into our software Dicentra. So what it does by putting 1050 into this box here is it forces Lightroom to make an adjustment on the width, and it will reduce the width to less than 1400 if the height is above 1050. Hopefully that makes sense. And the resolution is 240. Okay, so everything else is the same as before. Press export. It's actually given me the same folder as before, so I'm going to select that. It's now exporting that file to the folder, and there you go, it's there. Hasn't come through yet, still thinking about it. And there it is. So, as you can see, 2 for Tango, it has reduced the width from 1400 and it's kept the height at 1050, and that height is more important than the 1400. Let me show you what would have happened if I hadn't put in the 1050. If I just take that out and just do long edge 1400, do it again. Use a unique name. So, look what it's going to do to this. It will give me 1400, but let's see what the height's going to be. Right, so the 1400's there, but the height is now 1120. That is more than 1050, and that would not work in Dicentra. So that's why it's important to put in the 1400 by 1050. The 1050 restricts the height, forces the width to be smaller, and gives you, in this particular case, gives me 1313 by 1050. If I'd have submitted that to Ray, he would have checked it and not been very happy with me, because I should know better, because he would have to resize that. So that one can go. So it's as simple as that, really. The only other thing you might want to do, if you're regularly going to be submitting images into competitions, is to save a preset. So Lightroom cleverly remembers everything that we've done, and as you can see, and what I can do is I can press this button called Add, and I can give it a name under User Presets, and I'll press Create. And what I've done here is I've got a portrait preset here, as you can see, long edge 1050, yeah, and I've got a landscape preset here. So basically everything I've showed you, I have them in two presets. I don't have to worry about the settings because I know they're right. Depending on what the image is, I just have to do press one of these two and then press export. But what I in fairness, what I will always check, as I've shown you, looking at the dimensions to make sure that the dimensions fit within the software, and because ultimately that's the ultimate check. One thing I haven't shown you, and I will quickly show you, is a square. You would treat a square in the same way as you would treat a portrait. So this is a square. If I did a right click, export and export, I'm going to treat it as a portrait. Now I shouldn't have to go do a width and a height setting. I should be able to just do the long edge. Let's try it. And there's my, hasn't got a name, I've not named it, but I'm more interested in showing you the pixels. It should be 1050 by 1050. There you go. So a square, treat the square in the same way as you would treat a portrait, and you would get 1050 by 1050. So simple as that, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Hopefully that's been of some benefit to you, and that you'll be able to use this video as reference after each summer break and we're approaching competition time. Have a quick look at it and make sure that if you've got any sort of presets set up, that they're all correct, and then you're good to go. Okay, thank you. Bye for now.